Blessings. I'm Pastor Bruce Rosengata. I am the lead pastor at New Hope Community Church here in Northport, Florida. I'm excited to have an opportunity to share with you message number 3 in the marked Understanding Our Call to Discipleship. This week I want to go to, a message that is perhaps one of those famous ones locked in our mind if we've been in church. We've heard someone preach on following Jesus. We know that there is a call to become a fisher of men. And this week I want to talk about the call to fish. Some of the things that many people don't know about me is fishing's been a big part of my life. I have always loved fishing, whether it's farm ponds and reservoirs. As a kid growing up, fishing rivers, those were always great memories and great trips. But I've been privileged to be able to go and fly fish for salmon in Alaska, bonefish in the Caribbean. I've actually been fly fishing for trout in Mongolia. That's a great joy for me. And when I was in Africa one time, I saw some Susu fishermen, and they were out hand line fishing and just for daily sustenance. And actually, I bribed them with a few Cokes, and they took me hand line fishing the next day. If you were to look at a pile of lures and baits, you would discover that I would know the names of most of them, know how to fish them, know what it's like to use that bait or that lure, depending on what you were fishing for. It's a part of me. I would definitely state that I have been, and will probably continue to be, a fisherman. Now, when Jesus called his disciples to become fisher of men, he intended some very specific things for his disciples. And what he did with this call was he expected that his disciples would develop expertise at bringing others into a relationship with God. He literally declares that they will become fishers of men, that they will catch men. Jesus calls, "Come, follow me. I'll make you a fisher of men." Now, I want to focus on a passage of Scripture today that includes this story. So let me read to you from Mark chapter 1, verses 16 to 20. It says this: As Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I'll send you out to fish for people." At once they left their nets and followed him. When he had gone a little farther, he saw James, son of Zebedee, his brother John, in a boat preparing their nets. Without delay, he called them. Then they left their father Zebedee in a boat, the hired men, and they followed him. This calling to become a fisher of men, this story, shows 5 truths about what Jesus expected and what it meant to become a fisher of men. So I want to share those with you today and challenge each one of us to think about them when it comes to our following of Jesus. The first is this: being a fisher of men is a skill to be learned. It says in that passage that they were fishermen. Not everyone's a fisherman, but if you're a fisherman, there's skill that goes with it. That day it involved making with nets. That day it would involve mastering the lake, the Sea of Galilee. These are various things that it meant that when you were called a fisherman, you just knew and you understand. A skill is something that anyone can learn. When I was a youth, I used to be in the front yard, have one of my fishing poles out, and I put a big bobber on the end of it, and I would cast in a bucket to try to drop that bobber right in the spot I was casting at. Because on some of the farm ponds that I would fish, I would see bass in close to the shore, bluegill somewhere, and I wanted to present my bait perfectly to them. So I would practice casting. I worked at learning the skill to become a fisherman. Jesus, in his statement that we will become fishers of men, implies that this becoming a fisher of men is a skill to be learned. Now, if it's a skill, any one of us can learn it. Sometimes we just have to admit that we're not very good at it yet. It'd be interesting to think about, wow, where was I when I was 20 when it came to being a fisher of men? Where was I when I was 30, 40? Hopefully you are living a lifelong journey in your relationship with the forgiver, where your skill becoming a fisher of men is increasing. There's a second thing about this passage. Becoming a fisher of men, being one, is an intentional choice. In this passage, Jesus calls the fishermen. He calls Andrew and Peter, calls James and John to himself. And in both cases, it says this: they made this intentional choice. They left the nets and they followed. Now, as much as I love fishing, and as often as I've gone, I need to let you know this truth. I've never ended up fishing accidentally. I've always made a choice. I mean, it's true, I used to carry around in my motorcycle a collapsible fly rod. I would stop sometimes on the spur just to get a chance to fish. But every single time, it was an intentional choice for me to fish. I had to stop the bike. I had to get off. I had to assemble a fly rod. I had to tie on a fly. I had to present the fly in such a way that I had an opportunity to catch the fish. Being a fisher of men is an intentional choice. We cannot expect it just to happen somehow magically or mystically. We choose to become fishers of men. And if we're choosing to become a fisher of men, it makes sense that we are developing the skill to become better and better at it. Truth number 3 about being a fisher of men. Being a fisher of men requires preparation. We're going to fish for people, all sorts of different types of people. Well, I have fished for all sorts of different types of fish, and I want to let you know that when I went fly fishing for bonefish in the Caribbean, I prepared in a totally different way than I went salmon fishing in Alaska. I mean, what I wore, the gear that I brought with me, what fly rod I used, what flies I used, my technique, all of those things were tailor-made in preparation for what I hope to catch. If we're fishing for people, we need to realize that different people will have different needs, different avenues that we can approach as we seek to bring them into a relationship with Jesus. We need to learn to prepare well for the different types of people that we are developing relationships with, so that we get good opportunity to encourage them to follow the forgiver that we have discovered. Truth number 4 is this. Being a fisher of men, well, it can be a group endeavor. In this case, Jesus finds Simon and Andrew, James and John. He finds a group of fishermen. Now, I need to let you know that I have learned from fishermen my entire life. I have to confess that when I have fly fished, if there's been somebody upstream or downstream or across the stream that are catching trout and I'm not, I'm going to wander over and I'm going to ask the question, what are you using? If somebody's catching more fish than I am, I'm going to watch their technique. In a group endeavor, we can learn and support one another. Many a time I've given away a Wilson egg. It's one of my favorite trout flies. I've given a Wilson egg away to someone and encouraged them to try it when I've been catching fish and they haven't. This group endeavor, being a fisher of men, implies that we can learn from one another. Some of us, to develop our skill for being a fisher of men, we just need to see other people who have already gained skill, who have already learned things about how to reach friends and neighbors and others for the forgiver. If we do that, we increase our opportunities to see men and women come into that amazing relationship. How do you prepare? And what group of men, women, other people are you following, copying, that you might become a better fisher of men? Now, for truth number 5, I want to take us to another calling story in Scripture. Truth number 5 is simply this. Being a fisher of men means having a great satisfaction when we succeed. Being a fisher of men leads to great satisfaction. It's the truth. You see, when you don't catch fish, it's very frustrating, but when you do, it changes everything. In Luke chapter 5, starting in verse 5, there's another fishing story in Scripture. It says this: one day as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge two boats left there by fishermen. They were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little more from shore. Then he sat down and he taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out in deep water and let down the nets." Now listen to the frustration in Simon's voice. He says this: "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything." Failing to catch leads to frustration. But then Simon at this point says this: "But because you say so, I'll let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that the nets began to break. They signaled their partners in the other boats to come and help them, and they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw all this, he fell at Jesus' feet and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I'm a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on you'll fish for people." So they pulled their boats up on shore, left everything, and followed him. You see, there's this truth. When we don't succeed in leading others into a relationship with Jesus ever, it's frustrating to us. But that first time we get to walk someone into the kingdom, it leads to great satisfaction. I remember trout fishing at the Pine Lake Trout Club in Ohio one time, and I brought some men from the church, and one of those individuals brought a friend, and I was teaching them how to fly fish, and we were out there. And I remember there was this lawyer, and finally at one point, he was using a woolly booger, and he caught the fish, and he landed a trout on the bank of the Pine Lake Trout Club. And I want to let you know that this grown lawyer got so excited, he literally squealed with delight. He jumped up and down and said, "I caught a fish, I caught a fish, I caught a fish. I finally caught a fish." You see, Jesus wants us to have that type of great satisfaction. That when we have learned the skill and prepared well, and we have built the relationship with another person that can bear the weight of the gospel, and we get to walk them into the kingdom, there is an incredible sense of satisfaction that comes with it. Well, I want to encourage you to do what Jesus expects. He intends for his disciples to develop expertise at bringing others into a relationship with God. If you're a part of the Northport New Hope Community Church, love the fact that you're a part of us. But I want to encourage you to make sure that you are taking opportunities to invite others. Use some of our come and see cards. Use an opportunity to just simply invite someone to come and see what God's doing in our midst. Whether you invite them to be a part of the Anglo congregation that meets at 9 a.m. on Sundays, or you invite them into the Hispanic congregation that meets at 2 o'clock, or you're inviting them to come with you to celebrate recovery on Tuesday nights. Whatever you're inviting them to, realize this: as you continue to build that relationship and you get privileged to keep walking them towards the cross, a day may come where you'll be filled with such joy and excitement you succeed in walking a person into a deep relationship with Jesus. He said to us, "Follow me. I will make you a fisher of men." I'm Pastor Bruce Resengata. I invite you to join us. Thanks for listening. Be blessed.